Secretary Hegth destroyed any notion of military accountability as his shocking war crimes came to light. What he tried to hide has now been exposed in a bombshell revelation. Brace yourself. The truth is about to unfold.
Suspected drug vessel that has now been the subject of deeply troubling press reporting. The facts as we understand them are these. On September 2nd, U.S. forces conducted a strike on a vessel in the Caribbean. From his own public statements, we know that Secretary Hegseth authorized and oversaw the strike. According to press reports, the initial strike left survivors in the water clinging to the wreckage. And then U.S. forces carried out a second strike on the vessel, which killed the survivors. Initially, as he often does, the Secretary of Defense in his office denied the reporting when it broke last weekend. But then on Monday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that, in fact, Secretary Hegseth did authorize these strikes, and that Admiral Bradley, the operational commander, did order a second strike. The White House has admitted what the Secretary denied, when we cannot ignore what that means. The Department of Defense Law of War Manual states that members of the armed forces must refuse to comply with clearly illegal orders, including law of war violations. It even provides a definition and an example to avoid confusion. And I quote, for example, orders to fire upon the shipwrecked would be clearly illegal. And this is not a complex legal theory. This is not a gray area. The manual addresses this exact situation with crystal clarity. Orders to fire upon the shipwrecked are clearly illegal. And this principle has been long ingrained in the Department of Defense and the Navy. Multiple legal experts, including former judge advocate generals, have stated that if this reporting is accurate, this strike appears to constitute a war crime. Indeed, many of my Republican colleagues have joined Democrats in recognizing that the reported facts of this strike would be clearly illegal. And yet, in his own words yesterday, the Secretary of Defense claimed that the second strike was, quote, the correct decision. This by itself is an alarming admission. But, Mr. President, I am frankly not surprised about the Secretary's statements. For years, he has expressed contempt for the law of armed conflict and has championed service members convicted of war crimes. During the first Trump administration, he lobbied for the pardoning of several military personnel who were turned in by their own teammates for war crimes, as well as military contractors convicted of killing 14 Iraqi civilians. He has also called for reinstating waterboarding and other forms of torture. And in his book, The War on Warriors, he wrote, quote, should we follow the Geneva Convention? If our warriors are forced to follow rules arbitrarily and asked to sacrifice more lives so that international tribunals feel better about themselves, aren't we just better off in winning our wars according to our own rules? Since then, Secretary Hegth has acted exactly how we might expect. In October, at Quantico, he told hundreds of generals and admirals, quote, don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. He then gave them an ultimatum, quote, "If the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign," close quote. Secretary Hegth demands military leaders conform to his interpretation of the law or be dismissed. And this is profoundly dangerous. It contradicts the ethic and the ethos of the American military, sworn to uphold the Constitution, sworn to obey the laws of armed conflict, and that dedication is to ensure that when our personnel are disabled in the water, when they are prisoners of war, they are treated with the legal requirements of the Geneva Convention and of other legal constraints. If we kill with impunity people, how can we object to the same behavior from our opponents? Now, when he first came into the Department of Defense, he dismissed the Judge Advocate Generals of each service, the TJAGs. These are officers with more than 30 years of apolitical service providing legal oversight on military justice, operational law, and adherence to the law of armed conflict. Without these decades of military experience, the services seem to be losing their way and not supporting the men and women in uniform as these men and women deserve. When this latest story came to light, the Secretary immediately began pointing the fingers at others. He and the White House have repeatedly attempted to place responsibility for the September 2nd strike squarely on Admiral Bradley's shoulders. And Mr. President, I served in the Army on active duty for 12 years. And one of the first and most important lessons I learned is that a military leader can delegate authority, but you can never delegate responsibility. You give the orders. You own the results. Every officer knows this. But Secretary Hegseth is once again giving orders and rejecting responsibility when bad results come in. I can guarantee that every combat leader under his command is taking careful note of his behavior. It is not the behavior they have dedicated their lives to perform. More broadly, what troubles me most is the administration's refusal to explain itself to Congress and the American people. This suggests they know this operation and the tortured legal rationale they use to justify it cannot withstand scrutiny. Chairman Wicker, and I applaud him for his very forceful determination to investigate this situation, we both have formally requested the...
What you just witnessed was a stunning admission. Secretary of Defense Mark Hegseth, despite being the highest authority overseeing this operation, defended the indefensible, the unlawful killing of shipwreck survivors. This act, a blatant breach of the Geneva Convention, was not an isolated error but the result of a dangerous mindset permeating the upper echelons of the Pentagon. It's not just one incident. It's a pattern of disdain for international law that has now been brought to the public eye. And yet, Secretary Hegth has repeatedly denied the gravity of his actions. While he's quick to blame others, it's clear that he has been at the helm of decisions that could be categorized as war crimes. How many more lives will be lost under his direction before someone holds him accountable? As we've seen, the Pentagon's refusal to declassify documents related to this operation only strengthens the suspicion that the truth would not hold up to scrutiny. If this were an isolated issue, it might be easier to dismiss, but it's not. It is part of a systemic issue where the highest-ranking officials in the military believe they are above the law, that they are not bound by the rules that govern all of us. and that the lives of innocent people are expendable in the name of maximum lethality. This behavior, this mentality is dangerous and undermines everything our military is supposed to stand for: honor, duty, and adherence to the Constitution. And here's the question: how can we trust our government to make decisions on our behalf when those in power act with impunity, denying transparency at every step? The American people deserve better. The victims of this illegal strike deserve justice, and our military men and women deserve leaders who honor the oath they swore to uphold. The stonewalling we see from the White House and the Pentagon is a red flag. Why are they hiding the full truth? Why won't they show us the unedited videos of these strikes? If they truly have nothing to hide, transparency should be their first priority. Yet, we've seen the opposite. The only reason to hide evidence is to avoid accountability, to prevent us from seeing the ugly truth that they don't want the public to know. The law must be upheld. No one is above it, not even those in the highest military positions. If these actions are proven to be as illegal as they appear, it will serve as a warning to those in power that their actions will no longer go unchecked. The truth always comes out, and it will not be silenced. This isn't just about one strike or one Secretary of Defense. This is about a long-term problem within our military that needs to be addressed. The failure to prioritize the Constitution, the failure to protect human rights, and the failure to hold powerful individuals accountable. The Department of Defense must initiate an investigation into this entire operation and reveal the full, unedited footage. If they cannot do this, then we must demand they be held accountable for their lack of transparency. The American people deserve to know what happened. The truth will set us free, and the people will not stop until they get it. This is a call to action, not just for those involved in this case, but for anyone in power who thinks they can break the law with impunity. Share this video. Get this out to as many people as possible, because what happens next will be up to us. Don't stay silent. Subscribe, stay loud, and let's demand accountability together. No more hiding behind secrecy. The truth will come to light no matter how long it takes. It always does. And when it does, we'll be ready.